All right. So, are you an Amazon seller who is selling maybe on Amazon in the US and you're thinking, will my products sell internationally? Well, oftentimes selling internationally for existing Amazon sellers is one of the absolute best ways to grow the business of the sales you're already making on Amazon in the US by basically just taking those products, offering them for sale. Now, it's almost like running on autopilot once you're up and running. But here's the crazy part. There are some hoops you have to jump through, and there are a few things that kind of, well, let's just say it keeps your competition away. But if you're like me, you're probably thinking like, okay, but how do I figure it out? And so my name is Kevin Sanderson. If you don't know me, first off, for those of you watching the replay, welcome to the replay. We're going to be going through international selling. So I'm going to be asking, I'm going to be answering your questions here. So as you're joining, if you could, please put in the chat, well, one, that you can hear me, and then I'd love to know where you're from. So you can just put that in the chat and click the little thumbs up icon. So I know that you can hear me as well. So we're going to be answering those questions here momentarily. But I'm going to be doing just a couple quick little administrative things. So if you're watching this and you're saying to yourself, I'd like to, get the benefits of selling internationally, you're definitely in the right place. We're going to be answering those questions for you, just because we want to make sure that you have the information you need so that you can grow your own international selling empire on Amazon. So let me just take care of something here real quick. So I'm going to share this in the Facebook group. Oops. Looks like Wilson is here. So Wilson, thank you for joining. I'm going to post that there. All right, so enough of that kind of administrative stuff. We got people joining us in the group. We've got people joining us on YouTube. We got people joining us on the Facebook page. So we just got live stuff happening all over the place. So for those of you, again, who are joining, thank you for being here. So I'd love to answer whatever questions you have about selling internationally on Amazon. Whether you're watching this live or in the replay, stick around to the end because I have a little something giving away, but I want to be able to answer as many questions as possible. So we're going to let people kind of trickle in here as well. So just so in case you're watching this and you're like, who is this guy? Maybe you've stumbled on the replay. My name is Kevin Sanderson from Maximizing E-commerce. I help people grow international empires on Amazon. One of the things I've come to learn is that selling on Amazon's international marketplaces is one of the absolute best ways to grow your sales of the products you're already selling. So think of it this way. You've already done the effort of taking your products, creating the listings, creating the imaging, working with factories, doing all these things, figuring out what keywords work, figuring out PPC campaigns. Now, imagine if you could just take those products and then offer them to a different group of people. And so for those of us in the US, we tend to be very America-centric, and we forget sometimes that there's people outside of the United States who have credit cards on file, who are Prime members, who like to buy stuff very similar, and they also use similar words to describe the products they're looking for. So once you're up and running, you've already done a lot of the work. And then here's a little, I don't want to call it a hack, but a little thing a lot of people don't realize about selling internationally on Amazon is that once you have reviews in one marketplace, they carry over to other marketplaces. So you can basically take those reviews and carry them over, and they'll come over automatically. So whatever reviews that ASIN has will come with you to the next marketplace. So I know we got people trickling in here again on YouTube and Facebook. So if you could put in the chat where you're from. And then also if you can click the little thumbs up icon to let Facebook know or let me know that you're that I'm able to, or you're able to hear me, I should say. So as you're joining, feel free also to ask any questions in the chat as well. That also helps me know that you must be able to hear me if you're able to ask questions. So I'm super excited that you are here. So it looks like we got a question here from YouTube. Shakath Alam, I hope I said that right. If I butchered your name, I'm really sorry. What do you think about Amazon India? So Amazon India, I would say, is a great marketplace to get into if you have a presence in India. And so one of the things I've kind of heard folks say is the rub about selling in India is that you are unfortunately, for lack of a better word, in need of a local presence. And so if you're in India or you know people in India, it can be a great opportunity. I always say cast a wider net wherever you can. It's one of the things I think is definitely a beneficial thing. But a couple other things I've heard about India. I'm not personally in India because I don't really have a presence or a way of setting up in India. But I will just say this. One thing I have heard from folks who sell in India is, remember I was just saying about reviews carry over. So that's a good thing. Well, reverse works as well. So if you start getting reviews in Canada or in India or whatever, they will add to your total review counts across all marketplaces, which can be beneficial to help you grow your reviews faster, which is another reason to expand internationally. One of the things I've heard about India, though, is that people tend to the scales they use to judge products is a little different. I could be completely wrong. It's just things I've heard from people who have sold in India is that it actually hurt their reviews because people think a 3 is great. Like, oh yeah, it really satisfied my needs. 3. Well, that, here the scale that people are looking for is 4s and 5s, and people I think are also more willing to give 4s and 5s in the US. But that's not quite the case necessarily in India. So that is one thing just to keep in mind. So you may want to use a different ASIN and kind of start over from scratch. That's another thing with India, but that's about the extent of my opinion with India. So we got John here joining us from Nashville. Welcome, John. Wilson from Canada, from right outside of Milton, which I believe, if I remember correctly, Wilson, we've spoken before. That's in the Toronto area. And Marcia coming to us from Boise, Idaho. And and Wilson saying, funny, 3 reviews. So we've got a good swath of folks joining us. So if you can hear me, feel free to click the little thumbs up icon. And if you have any questions, drop them in the chat because we are here to answer your questions. And I know based on some of the people who are here are already selling in some international marketplaces. So if you are selling in international marketplaces, I'd love to know how your experience is going with that, whether good or bad. If it's good, I'd love to hear it. If it's not so good, maybe we can figure out a way to make it more good. Make it better, because that's what we're here for. So stick around to the end because I'm going to be sharing some things as well as potentially even giving a gift to a lucky recipient who might be interested in something. So definitely feel free to ask whatever questions you have. This is an Ask Me Anything format, meaning I'm here to answer your questions. So as you're jumping on here, we got more and more people starting to jump in here. Feel free to, in the chat, just let me know what questions you have, because my goal here is to answer as many questions as possible. I love doing this format. I think this is now the 4th time in the last, well, pretty much since December 31st, I've done a similar type format of basically answering your questions, whether I called it an Ask Me Anything or something similar to that. It's just a lot of fun for me because, again, let's say you have a product and you're selling it on Amazon in the US. You wrote an English listing. There's people on Amazon in Canada, Amazon in the UK. We'll just use those as 2 examples because I think that's the lowest hanging fruit for most folks who they're going to use similar words to describe that. They're already buying similar products. In fact, for those of you watching right now who are already selling on Amazon, there's a very good chance over the course of the time you're watching this, if you have products that you're not selling in some international marketplace, someone is typing a keyword similar to what you're used to. If you're selling, let's say, a garlic press, use my friend Scott Volker's old example there, and you type in garlic press, and they might have bought your garlic press, but they couldn't because you weren't there. So it's one of those things that if you offer your product for sale, you're going to get more sales. Because really, when you think about it, when you grow a business, there's a couple kind of paradigms I like to look at it from. So you have, on one hand, you want to cast a wider net because if you want to grow, you need to do two things. One, either sell more things, have more offerings, or sell to more people. And so in the e-commerce world, because it costs money to launch new products, to create new products, that can be expensive, which is still something you should be constantly doing over time. But then you also want to find more people to sell your existing catalog of products to. And if you're able to do that, you're going to set yourself up to win. And so the more people you can sell to with a wider net of your existing products, you're going to do better. So if you think of it this way, it's a function of time. And so each day that goes by, you're going to get a certain number of sales. And so, yeah, maybe there's seasons in it, but as the seasons, the dips and the dives and the ups and the downs, I tend to find, like, at least for me, my sales do the best in Q4, like by far. And I tend to get a really good Q4 bump in Europe. I get a good Q4 bump in Australia. I get a good Q4 bump in Canada. And I'd be missing out on sales. In fact, last holiday season, in the 30 days leading up to Christmas Eve, I did about just shy of $72,000 on Amazon in the US. And so that's a respectable month. If I had not been selling on Amazon in international marketplaces, I would have missed out on an additional approximately $40,000. So it took me a little bit above 112,000, or the equivalent of 112,000 US dollars, by taking products I was already selling and then offering them. So as time goes on, we're giving ourselves the opportunity to make more sales. And so if you've been thinking about selling internationally, just ask yourself this question: what is holding you back? Oftentimes it's not a physical border. It's oftentimes a mental border that keeps us from taking that next step, for just fear that we're doing it the wrong way. So that's, again, one of the reasons why I'm doing this, so that I can help you with that. And so let's see some of the questions and comments that we have here. So again, feel free to ask any questions, drop them in the chat, whether you're on YouTube or you're on Facebook, and we'll do our best to answer those. So on YouTube, we got Yarrow. Yarrow, I know you've joined us in some of the ones in the past, so welcome back. Can I start to sell on Amazon Canada without any legal registration? And once I reach certain limits in sales, then register? Thanks. Great question. So one of the things I would say there, Yarrow, is there is a rule in Canada, and just quick little disclaimer here, I'm not providing legal or tax advice. I'm just my perspective as someone who's done it before. If you're going into Canada, Canada does have this rule that you don't have to register for GST, their goods and services tax, until you have at least 30,000 Canadian dollars, which is, let's just call that about 23,000 US dollars in sales worldwide. Most of the time when you look at countries and they have thresholds, they're not talking about worldwide sales. They're talking about sales in their country. This rule applies to everything. So if you have more than $23,000 in sales in the US, in the UK, in Australia, anywhere, on Shopify, on Etsy, on eBay, then that would all fall in there where technically you have to. Now, let's just say you're not quite there yet, and you're deciding to yourself, should I register or not? Technically, you need a business number to operate in Canada. Amazon is not necessarily going to enforce that, but you potentially would have problems getting stock across the border. And so when you register, there's a few things you want to register for. In fact, stick around to the end because I have a solution to make this a lot simpler. But this is the form you got to fill out. And I know it's kind of scary for a lot of folks because it's 13 pages long. And a lot of it doesn't even apply. But sometimes the terms are just weird. But basically, you want to register for three things. You want to register for the business number, which let's just call that, it's the equivalent of an EIN in the US, so employer identification number. So it's basically the registration number for the business. And you can use, let's say, like I have a Florida LLC. I can use my Florida LLC. In fact, I did use my Florida LLC. And most of the clients I work with tend to use their local companies and when they register in Canada. So they get a business number and then get a import-export number, which that's going to help you get your goods through the border. Somebody's business number and import export number has to be on the that shipment in order for it to clear properly. And then you want to get the GST number. Now, I personally registered for all of that even before in my business was still relatively new, and I hadn't even hit that threshold yet of 30,000 Canadian dollars total. I was still very fresh in my selling career. So it's one of those things I would definitely recommend to go ahead and register. Like, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't want to. And I'll say, here's another reason why you might want to. And again, this is not tax advice, but this is just helpful, friendly information as you're doing your research on this stuff. So in Canada, it operates very similar to the US holistically, in the sense that the sales tax is added on top of the selling price. So if somebody purchased something on Amazon for 20 Canadian dollars, if you are registered for GST and you put your GST number in the tax settings in Amazon, Amazon will add on the appropriate GST, HST, we'll just call that sales tax, for that particular customer. And so for most folks, you would need to file and remit that to the government once a year. Now, one thing that's just so everyone knows, if you're used to marketplace facilitator taking care of all of your sales tax, that's not the case in Canada. So what happens is that sales tax is given to you every disbursement. So every 2 weeks you get a disbursement in Canada, just like you get one here. And if you've put in your sales tax number, they're going to charge the customer. And then as you get your disbursements, included in your disbursements, part of that is also going to be the sales tax, which at the end of the year, you'd go to pay the government. So let's just say over the course of the year, you collected 5,000 Canadian dollars in sales tax, or Amazon collected it for you and gave it to you. So all you're really doing is just moving it over. Now, in a lot of cases, you're not actually going to pay $5,000. You're going to subtract out a few things. And this is different than, this is where it starts to get a little bit different than sales taxes in the US. And so what's going to happen is, let's say when you cross the border, generally you're going to pay 5% GST, depending on your product and a variety of other factors. So let's just say for the most part, it's going to be around 5% of your declared value, not necessarily what you're selling the product for, but like, let's just call it your landed cost. Let's assume that's what you put on they call it the commercial invoice. And so whatever your declared value is in the commercial invoice, you're going to pay 5% of that. Then that's going to be what's called a input credit. Then Amazon's also going to be charging you fulfillment fees. So if you're doing FBA, Amazon's charging you fulfillment fees. Or if you're not doing FBA, like you have a local warehouse and you're doing it 3PL and they're going to do FBM for you, so you're fulfilling it by, your 3PL, which sometimes people do, they're probably going to be charging you GST likely as well. Those are also credits. So the GST you pay on top of your fulfillment fees. So let's just say for most folks, to make this simple, we'll just say on top of your FBA fees, you're going to be charged GST. If you're selling in Canada now, just know you're probably getting maybe an email, or if you go into the tax document library, you're probably going to, it's under the reports heading, you're probably going to see there's these monthly Amazon.ca tax invoices. And you're probably like, what is that? Not the total amount you pay on FBA fees, but the GST, HST they charge you on top of that. That's a credit at the end of the year. So let's just walk through a brief example. Let's say, again, you collected $5,000 over the course of the year in sales tax. And then let's maybe say you paid $1,500 at the border and maybe $1,700 you paid on top of your fulfillment fees. I'm totally making these numbers up, so these might not actually make sense as to what the ratios might actually look like, but let's just say it's not too far off. So that means $1,500 and $1,700, that's $3,200. So you have $3,200 Canadian dollars in credits. So $5,000 minus $3,200, that $3,200 is money you already paid. You have no choice but to pay that. When you go across the border, someone has to pay the import GST. When you make fulfillment fees, it doesn't matter if you're registered or not, they're still going to charge you on top of the fulfillment fees. So that $3,200 subtracts from what you owe. So you only are going to give the government $1,800 in that example. Whatever you're subtracting out, you only pay the difference. So that means, in essence, because you're keeping that difference, your customers just paid you back for charges you were going to have anyway. So point being, I don't see any reason not to register for GST. Think of it as something you're going to grow into anyway. If you're planning on selling in Canada, I'm a firm believer, start relatively early. I had one product for sale and had a handful more that I was working with on my factory. When I started the process of filling out this form, I spent hours watching videos that didn't even make sense to somebody on Amazon to try to figure all this stuff out. I spent a lot of time on the phone figuring out, but stick around to the end because I've got a solution that might help you. In fact, I might even be giving something away too. So I would definitely recommend sticking around to the end. All right, so let's get to some other questions. Hopefully that helped you, Yaro. So, all right, so we've got Wilson. Currently, I'm on Amazon, US, and Canada. I'd like to know more what it's like in Amazon UK, not whole Europe. My questions are, how hard is it to get VAT, and how do taxes work? So, it's a great question. And so, there's a lot of moving pieces with that. One thing I will say is I am planning on hosting a live session here coming up soon with the folks from Avask Accounting out of Southampton, England. They're actually the ones that do my taxes for me in the UK. And so they're experts, highly recommend them. And they're going to come on and do a live. So if you have specific VAT questions, I would say they'd be good ones to answer. Now, I'm going to give you my perspectives. And again, everything I'm saying here, it's just my personal perspective. This is not professional tax advice or anything like that. So a few things to keep in mind when going into Europe. So Europe is a little different. So it's kind of like if expanding globally, Canada is almost like JV. Nothing against Canada. Wilson, I know you're asking the question and you live in Canada. I mean, nothing but the most utmost respect to the people, the fine people of Canada. But operating an Amazon business, so to speak, in Canada is a lot simpler than operating it in the UK. They're both relatively simple, but the level of complexity goes up when you go into the UK. And so I would suggest start with Canada, go into the UK. Now you've done that. So you've started with Canada. Now you're looking to go into the United Kingdom. One thing to keep in mind is your selling price includes VAT. And this is going to get a little convoluted. So one thing to keep in mind is you're figuring out your margins become much more important to figure out when you go over there, because Amazon is now, as of January 1st, required by the British government to hold back a 20% VAT. And the way that math actually works is 1/6 of your selling price. You might be thinking, wait, describe that for me, 20%. Like, so just say something was for sale for 12 pounds. 12 pounds sterling is the name of their currency. So if you had something that was available for, you're selling it for 12 pounds. The way it technically works is 10 pounds of that is your price before VAT. And then 2 pounds is your VAT. But what you're advertising is the 12 pounds. And so just to use a different analogy, I live in Florida. Let's say I went to the Miami Marlins game. And let's say somebody was going up and down the stairs. I don't even know if I can go to a game there or if somebody goes up and down the stairs selling beer, but let's just roll with this example. And let's say somebody was selling beer for $12 and I hand them a 20 and then they hand me $8 back. They don't figure out sales tax. It's all included. And then the back end, they kind of figure it all out. Even though in the US and Canada, sales tax is generally customarily added on top of the selling price. When selling to consumers, it's generally included in the selling price. And there, that is the sales tax. And so you have to make sure that when you're pricing that you know 1/6 of your selling price. So if you think about in my example of 12 pounds, 2 pounds is VAT, 2 divided by 12 is 6. So 1/6, it's always going to work out to 1/6. It's just the way the math works out. So just divide by 6, and that's the amount they're going to keep. Now, here's one thing that kind of rubs me a little bit the wrong way is when I've checked the the whatchamacallit, my what do they call it? It's not the disbursement report, transaction summary or whatever the case is, where you can see like each transaction and what all was deducted. Your commission is generally, instead of, for most folks, most places it's 15%. There it's generally 15.3%. And so your 15.3% commission there is actually on the total price, which includes VAT. That's different than how it usually is. They're usually not doing the commission, unless I'm totally wrong. In North America, it's not included this sales tax price. So if you're selling it for 20 and then 8% sales tax is added on, that's different. They're not charging you a commission on sales tax, but they are on VAT, and that's a pretty decent chunk of your selling price. Anyway, total side note there. But to sell in Canada, or sorry, in the UK, what you want to do is you want to register for a VAT number. VAT takes forever. One of the nice things about Canada is if you fill this form out right and you give them your articles of incorporation with this properly done, you just give it to them. And then if, 4 to 6 weeks or whatever later, they say, here's your business number. And they call and they're super helpful and friendly. In the UK, there's this back and forth. Fill out this form. We need that form. That form doesn't work anymore. Like, and some of it is, I get it. The UK, as we all know, I'm sure you're probably familiar, broke away from the British government. The British government broke away from the European Union. And so now they're their own thing. So they're kind of still establishing themselves and what their norms are and things of that nature. So it can be a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of complex, trying to figure all of that out. But I would say, you definitely want to have someone help you. Amazon has a service the VAT service where they do it. I've yet to really hear great things about it. I haven't really heard a lot about it. So if you have used the Amazon VAT service, please leave a comment. Let me know, good, bad, and different. I'd love to know your experience with it, because I get people asking me about it. And my suggestion personally is use someone who is an expert on it. And so, if you're going to use somebody, instead, Avast is a little more expensive for VAT compliance than Amazon VAT services, but you have someone you can call if you have questions. And they literally have saved me thousands of pounds in, oops, I didn't do that one right. So like I have found it to be worth my while. I'll just say that. But basically you want to get an EORI number. Now here's one quick little tip I will give you is you can get an EORI number that's not attached to your VAT number, and you literally could go do that right now, and it would give you the EORI number like instantly. You just go on the UK government's website. Canada, you have to like fax stuff. They still use fax. But what the UK government gets right is like some of these registration forms can be done online. So you can get an EORI number, which is basically your import-export number, instantly. Now, the one thing is you wouldn't get credit for the VAT you pay at the border. But, for some people, they kind of look at it as like, okay, maybe they're doing a 35% tariff into the US, but a 20% VAT. It's still coming out better in the end. But bottom line, more than anything, it's a little more complex in the UK. I think it's the next logical step after Canada. And so in your case, you've been doing that. So I would say you want to get the VAT number, but I would definitely have someone help you with it. Would be and Avast is who I use. All right. So Sakath Alam, I'm thinking becoming an Amazon seller, and I'm from India. So what do you suggest me to start an Amazon India market, or just go global and sell in Canada? One thing I think, always sell in the US, no matter what. I mean, that's the 900-pound gorilla out there. I say, if you're in India, why not sell on Amazon India? I mean, you understand what people in India want better than I could figure out. A lot of the software tools don't necessarily work in India. They tend to work mostly in Europe and North America. So India might not work there, but I would say if you're in India, do it. Then I would say from, India, maybe start there, because at least you're there and you have kind of that local advantage, which you kind of need in India. And then I would go from there. I'd go into the US, and then I would go into Canada from there, and then maybe UK. I would kind of go in that order. So hopefully that helps. Oh, you're definitely right about the review thing. Most people give 3-star review most of the time. So one of the things I said earlier was that I had always kind of heard one of the challenges in India was that people would leave lower reviews just culturally than what people would leave in North America or Europe. And they're not like being mean. It's just 3 is great. Whereas we look at it as like 3 is a disappointment. Like I know people that have bad days because they got a 3-star review. Whereas over there, that's what they're thinking is great. So those reviews also, if linked to the same ASIN, would also affect your other marketplaces. So thank you for that insight there. Yarrow said, I sell more than in the US. So, that's probably the 30,000 Canadian dollars. So need to register. Thanks. Yeah, it's definitely worth registering. Yes, need to register. Thanks. That helped. Yeah, glad I could help you there. All right. So then we've got Tenzing Lama. Hey, I have my products sent to FBA in Canada directly. My supplier sends me their invoice. That includes the shipping. So generally speaking, it depends on who is doing the actual shipment, like whether UPS, FedEx, or whatever, who's clearing it. Most of the time, if you have, let's say, UPS, there's going to be two invoices, or at least let's just say you're sending it from, which actually, let's just say, I'm just going to use UPS and say almost across the board, this is how it works. There's, let's call it an export invoice. So let's say going from the US into Canada or going into China into Canada. So you're exporting it out of one country into another. So it's leaving that country, and that's the shipping. And then there's an import invoice, and that's the getting it across the border. And so you got to pay the duties, the brokerage fee, the GST. And GST is generally the biggest part of it. And so what I would say is someone is still going to be paying for that. They might be, depending on what you're working out with your supplier, someone is paying that, and you want to be the one to get the credits for it. So if you're not getting an invoice and they're just, like, for example, if they're including shipping on your invoice, like if you're buying 1,000 widgets and then there's a line item for shipping, they might have included that in there. So the only challenge with that is you're technically, if you don't have the invoice, you can't technically get the credit because you would need something to back up, any credits you're asking for. So it looks like you had a follow-up there, which is the invoice basically states how much per kilogram for shipping. I want to take advantage of shipping credit. What information do I need from my supplier to do that? Okay, great question. You need the invoice. Your supplier might not even have the invoice. It might be whoever their shipper is, because usually the suppliers are working with some sort of other shipping agent. So technically, the way it would work is you would need to have it be the commercial invoice would have you on there, and you would want to be paying for this DDP, destination duties paid, which is probably the way they're doing it, because Amazon would be rejecting your shipment if Amazon thought they were going to be responsible for the import VAT, or not VAT. In this case, it's GST, but you definitely want to be able to have that invoice. And if they can't provide it to you, ask them how. And so you may just want to do the math that, if you were to do this on your own, even if you paid a little bit extra for shipping, little tidbit, UPS, for the last several years, this has worked, and I don't see it going away. You can use promo code EASY, EASY, or FAST, FAST, as in not slow, but fast. And you can get a up to 40% discount on shipping. And that sometimes, even if you have discounts on your account, can beat that. And so that might help you. And so even if it's a little bit more for the shipping, but if you're getting the credit, it could work out to you, because it's a credit, and that's just the GST that you're paying at the border. But it's a dollar for dollar credit on what you would owe the government at the end of the year. So it's not a deduction. Like if you think of things, if you're familiar with US income tax, deductions just take away from what your taxable income would be. Whereas a credit is like, they're giving you that exact money back almost. So I'm oversimplifying it, but hopefully that made sense. And then Wilson said, great. Thank you. So if you have any other questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I know we got folks watching us here on YouTube and on Facebook. And for those of you who are sticking around during the replay, thank you for joining us here as well. But for those of you who are joining us live, feel free to drop in questions. In fact, even if you're watching the replay, feel free to drop a question in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. I know people have left comments, both on YouTube and Facebook for these similar formatted videos, and I do my best to try to answer the questions people have. Sometimes it's easier to talk through things. I tend to like to talk more. Sometimes you might ask me what the time is. I might try to build you a clock. It's easier for me to do that verbally than it is typing. Some people love to type. I'm not necessarily a typing guy, but if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat there. So also stick around here for a little bit, because I do have something I'm going to be giving away, which would help you. I'll just give a little hint, especially if you are looking to sell in Canada. So we'll have something that should be very helpful for you there. So feel free to drop any questions you have in the chat. And then also, again, I'm just going to throw this out there. I know I asked this question earlier, but I'm going to ask it again. If you have experience with what's the word I'm looking for? The Amazon VAT services, I want to know, what is your experience, good, bad, or the indifferent? I've heard it's kind of like a little bit more low frills, I guess would be the way. I don't want to disparage it. I mean, I'm sure they're doing a good job, but it's like, it's not as much interaction. Like, you can't pick up the phone and call someone to get a quick answer on something, whereas you could if you were working directly with like a Vask or one of their competitors. It's a little more expensive, but oftentimes you get what you pay for with those type of things. But I'm just kind of curious, like, what would be someone's actual experience? All right. So John asked, are you FBA in all international markets? I am. I have local FBA inventory in every market I sell in. The only exception would be I recently started selling NARF, North American Remote Fulfillment, into Mexico. NARF is one of those things that sounds great on the surface. For those of you who are listening, like, what is NARF? It's basically, you can use your existing stock in the US and sell into Canada and Mexico. Now, the challenge is your fulfillment fee is going to be a little bit higher. The customer is going to have to pay duties. It's going to take the customer longer to get there. And I believe they also have to pay extra for shipping. And so it's nowhere near as good of a deal for the customer. And so if you're a customer and you can press a button and something will magically show up on your doorstep 2 days later, or you can pay extra for duties, almost like you're not even like, you're not getting Prime shipping, because a lot of people in Canada are Prime. It's just not worth it. And then Mexico, I've literally have made one sale on NARF, and I've been in Mexico for, I want to say, all year. It might've been like the very beginning of the year I started adding some of my listings as NARF listings into Mexico. So let's just say close to 3 months. I've been selling in Mexico, and I've made one sale. Somebody literally just emailed me before we started this, like, with questions about Amazon Mexico. And I tend to find Amazon Mexico is nowhere near as good as a lot of the other marketplaces. It's just a lot more work to figure out. It can be good for people. You definitely would want to do Mercado Libre if you go there, but going back to, sometimes I build clocks when you ask me for what the time is. But to answer John's question, yeah, I'm FBA in all the marketplaces. All right. So we got Mohammed. What do you think about the Pakistan's? Pakistan's great. The only thing I would say about Pakistan is they don't have an Amazon marketplace. If eventually Amazon's like taking over the world, I would imagine eventually it'll go to Pakistan. And if Amazon does create a marketplace in Pakistan, I would be very curious to know what the possible results are. With that saying, I'm going to say, if you're like me, you probably get emails from Amazon almost daily about going into places like Singapore and UAE or whatever the latest and greatest is. I tend to say, if you're not in the low hanging fruit of places like Canada, UK, the rest of Europe, Australia, I would hold back on some of the other newer marketplaces because the customers have to take time to adopt it. Amazon, oftentimes, they kind of go with, let's just say, what's the word I'm looking for? Minimum viable marketplace, meaning like just very low frills. They may not even have PPC. Like you have no ability to control your destiny in some of these newer marketplaces. So it's like, and a lot of the software tools that help you figure out demand don't even work there. So like you're totally flying blind and you have no way to control your sales. It's just let things kind of sort themselves out before you start going to places like Singapore. So if Pakistan gets one, I would say that would also be my thought there. So a good question there. All right. So Yarrow, I work with Avalara in the UK. So far, so good, but it's a very simple case, just managing my VAT reports, 4 reports per year. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Is that also part of Amazon's VAT service? Because as far as I know, Amazon's what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, yes. So as far as Amazon that service, I didn't think Avalara was part of that, but Amazon always has these new programs they keep trying. So sometimes they call them something similar. So we could be saying the same thing or something different. Not 100% sure. Raphael said, from my UK business, I have the issue that I was in the 8%, but going to change the standard rate soon. Can I deduct my future imports using C79? Technically, yes. And C79 is just basically like, it's like a really nice looking form. Like it gets mailed to you. And it's like beautiful paper, like impressive paper. But technically you have to have a shipment number registered to your EORI number, which is also make sure it's associated to your VAT number. So when I was saying before, you could create an EORI number, that wouldn't work if your EORI number wasn't connected to your VAT number. So if you're still waiting on a VAT number, what I'm saying here doesn't apply. But going back to if you're working with someone who can manage your VAT compliance for you, this would definitely help you. So, all right. So, but yes, you can deduct the VAT in the future. And so I also think it's going to push some of the prices up as well. Your competitors are probably going to be pricing accordingly because if you're not in you said 8%. So I'm assuming you were in the flat rate scheme before. Flat rate scheme doesn't really apply anymore. What other questions do we have here? Canada authorities stop my shipments. Hopefully they release my shipment. Any advice on future imports? I use UPS, LTL, but this is the first time happening with DHL issue. Never happens. I've never had one stopped. The only thing I could say is if you usually use DHL and now you switch to UPS, it might just be there's paperwork that needs to be done. With UPS, the first shipment into Canada is always the biggest headache. You got to fill out this form and and then people forget to process it and like whatever forms or whatever. So it can be kind of stressful the first time, but then I tend to find UPS runs like clockwork after that. It's just the first time it can be a little annoying. So hopefully that makes sense. But I would say call UPS. And when you call UPS, there's like silos because it's a very big company. There's domestic UPS for like in the US and there's international. Make sure you're talking international. In fact, don't even mention that you're in the US because the international people, it's almost like they want to get you to the domestic people so they don't have to deal with it. So this is definitely an international thing because you're going across a border. Same question. Tenzing Lama asked, I'm currently using Amazon service to apply for VAT. They have a promotion where you get their service free for a year. Yeah, that's great. So I'd love to know your experience. And if you're still in the middle of it, then, you're still in the middle of it, but shoot me an email, kevin@maximizingecommerce.com, and let me know how it's going. Cause I'm just curious, like, free is great for the first year, but like, is it just going to be a complete pain to do it? Because I know from experience, sometimes it can be a little complex getting the VAT numbers anyway. Oh, gotcha. So Yaro said, I'm registered separately only for UK, but without Amazon. So yeah, that makes sense what you're doing. Then here Tenzing said, you can choose to apply for VAT countries or just one. I chose to work with TB Accountant. They're helping me apply for all countries. One thing I will just caution folks is when you apply for all countries, you're now going to be on the hook in a year from now when the VAT services are over. And just keep in mind down the road, is it worth keeping all the VAT numbers? Because in some places, like let's say Czech Republic and Poland, which if you're applying in all countries, even though there is no Amazon marketplace in Czech Republic, most likely if you're going towards that pan-European route, which I did for a year, looks like someone's already asking me my opinion on pan-European. So we're going to get to that. So if you're doing pan-EU, they want you to be registered everywhere. And because in Europe, now let's talk about European Union, take the UK out of it. But if you're in the European Union, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, you have, what's the word I'm looking for? You have stock in Germany. So let's say you import into Germany, you have stock in Germany. You can ship to customers in Italy who bought on Amazon.it, or ship to customers who bought on Amazon.es in Spain, and the VAT all gets remitted to the German tax authorities because you held it there. Now, in order for Amazon to do what Amazon wants to do, which is to be able to have inventory closest to the customers, this is how they work in general. Because if you think about it, like if I send something from Florida to North Carolina to an Amazon fulfillment center, it's not all going to stay in North Carolina. It's going to move all over the country. They want to be able to do the same thing in Europe. The difference is you can move stuff pretty much freely because of commerce clauses in the Constitution of the United States. That's no problem. But when you're in the European Union, these are not states. These are really member countries. Like these are sovereign nations. And so the way it works with VAT, generally speaking, if you're holding VAT in a country, you owe VAT to that country. And so I was having to do filings to like monthly. Now, Avask took care of it, to Poland, Czech Republic. But I'm like, it's just the pain of the time to take like the equivalent of, let's say, $11, because maybe like 2 transactions came from a fulfillment center in the Czech Republic, move it to, it's not euros. It's like, I don't even know, probably couldn't even pronounce it if I tried, whatever their currency is. No offense to anyone from the Czech Republic. I just don't know how to pronounce Czech words. But then all of a sudden I have to do this every month. It was just like, it was a lot to keep up with, and the sales weren't enough. And oftentimes people will say, oh yeah, you're going to get a bump in sales with Pan-EU. I didn't really get a bump in sales with Pan-EU. In fact, when I went off Pan-EU, my sales actually went up. Let's just say maybe that was just happenstance. All right. So what else do we have here? Once registered in Canada, what should I do yearly? Only one report at the end of the year. Yeah. In fact, actually, if you go into my YouTube channel this year, and again, no tax advice here, just showing stuff. I showed actually documented like what I did when I did my taxes. So when I remitted my GST, which is due if your year ends December 31st, which most people would, then December 31st, you would be responsible for, or sorry, 3 months later, so that would be March 31st, you'd be responsible for filing and remitting your GST, filing and money to the governments. All right. So we got Chris Tierlink. We're considering Amazon CA and in the process of researching the business case. What websites do you suggest for researching the costs and the requirements to outweigh pros and cons of adding Amazon CA to our business offering? I would say youtube.com/maximizing e-commerce. And I say that with all sincerity. I do have a playlist there, which goes through a lot of stuff about selling in Canada, walk through all that. In fact, make sure, Chris, to stay here to the end. You might even win a prize, which would probably be beneficial to what you're describing there. You deserve, be our next Reezy Resell Selling International. I appreciate your content. Thank you. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So I would love to help out wherever I can. So here's one way I could help you out, everyone watching this. So if you're watching this and you've not started selling in Canada, I've got something I'm going to start offering. So stick around here because some lucky person is going to get this for free. So, and if you're watching this in the future, stick around because this could also be worth your while. So here's the thing. There's this form. It's not terrible to figure out, but I probably spent a couple weeks researching how to fill this out. And I was stressed that I was doing it right. It's 13 pages long. There's like all weird terms on it that you have to fill out to register in Canada. I've now spent hours on the phone because now I have a service where I help people expand internationally. And I have tend to find it's the best way to go international, but it's just that hoop you have to jump through when you're going into Canada is this form. And then, you know, of course, there's a few other mechanical things you got to do. So if you've been following me for a while, you might have heard me talk about I had a workshop called the Expanded Canada Fast Track Workshop. And so that was, I was going through live with folks, filling out the form together, like they left the workshop having a form completed that they could fax to the Canadian authorities to have their business number. In fact, I've even got somebody that, you know, I know some people have even already gotten their numbers back yet, or back already, I should say. And so then we walk through step by step what you need to do beyond that. And so we walk through, you know, give a very good high level of, okay, here's exactly what you need to do. And so some of you watching this might have downloaded a checklist I've offered somewhere. And one thing I'm going to be doing is on the thank you page for that checklist, people can get that workshop at a super discounted price, like 75% off. And you just, you know, trying to help people out because it's confusing. And this could be something where I think if you take action, it's totally worth your while. And so what I'm going to be doing, so if you're watching this on, it is now the 20th of April, 2021, tomorrow at midnight. So that would be Wednesday night, midnight Eastern time. This deal is going to be going away. I'm offering the recordings of that workshop because I'm offering it to people as they download the checklist. I'm offering the recordings of that workshop for just $47. Because if you're already on my list, you might not get the opportunity to be able to present or to get that that deal. So I want to give everybody a chance now, because I remember there was a commercial. I don't know if it was a bank or if it was a cell phone company, and they were kind of making fun of the fact that, like, oftentimes, you know, new deals for new customers, new accounts, new cell phone lines, whatever. But then if you're an existing, it's like, oh, you're not as good. And so it was like these kids in a kindergarten class, and they're like, oh, well, here's the new kid in the class. They get a pony and they get all the other stuff. And it was kind of making fun of that. And so I just thought that was funny. So I want to take care of the people who are already existing following me. So you can grab that. Now, what I will say is I'm going to, for those of you who are live, and I said, if you stick around to the end, you might get the chance to win this for free. So I'll save you the $47. So if you are interested in this, I'm going to do a quick little drawing. And by drawing, we're going to like do like a random number. So if you are interested in this and you're not selling in Canada, I know some of you were asking questions about Canada, just type in FAST, because this is the Fast Track Workshop. So in the comments, type in FAST, F-A-S-T, and then you'll be entered to win the Expanded Canada Fast Track Workshop. And so just to kind of show you a little bit behind the scenes of what I'm talking about here, let me go ahead and just pull up my screen. So this is, like I was saying, limited time offer. So if you're watching this in the future and this offer has gone away, then, well, you could still potentially buy this. I would still say at the retail price of $197, it's still going to be worth your while, because for a lot of people, even at $197, if this gets you to take action in Canada, it'll probably pay for itself just on the fact that you're going to get started earlier and get going earlier. And so you have the ability to, what's the word I'm looking for? To get going faster without the stress of having to figure it out on your own. And so for some people, let's say even at $197, you'll get that back in a matter of a couple of days once you're up and running. When you look at the cash flow you might be getting, so it just depends on where you're at, but it literally could pay for itself, because for a lot of people, I know people that have been following me for over a year asking me questions about Canada, and they're still not there yet. I don't want that to happen for you if that's what you want. So if you don't win, you can still get the opportunity to purchase this at a super low discount, $47. And just a little thing I'll throw in there is, if you purchase this, you'll also go to a page where you can buy an hour consultation with me at 50% off. Also a one-time offer, and that will only be available for that select time period when you are, when you're, have just purchased that. And so that actually, what's kind of crazy, and I didn't really think about this, but if you purchase at this low price, the fast track workshop plus an hour consultation with me, that's less expensive than normally getting the consultation with me. And you have the fast track workshop where, again, we fill this out together. So we've got a handful of people that are interested in getting this for free. The fast track workshop, if that is you, go ahead and looks like we got some people there. So I'm going to say last call if that's something you're interested in. So if you've not yet expanded into Canada, and you're interested in doing it, just type the word fast into the chat, and you'll be able to be entered into, we're going to do a little drawing here. So let's go ahead and we'll say this is last call. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start, looks like, just to show you guys my screen here. So it might be kind of weird if you see me on the screen. Maybe from your vantage point, it's not bad, because I'm trying to make sure I'm not like repeating myself over and over again. But we've got folks here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we'll just say this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Haha. No, everybody just gets one entry, but nice, good thought there. Sometimes it's good to ask. You don't ask, you don't get. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's just go to random.org. We'll put in 6. So 5, hopefully you guys are seeing this. So I put in random.org. I want to get 6 people. So 5. So that will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you still got it, even though you tried to cheat there. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, you still got it. So congratulations. That is awesome. I'm happy for you. So just if you're on my email list, respond to my emails or shoot me a direct message and I'll get you set up with that. And so for those of you who did not win, you are still a winner, because you still get the chance between now and midnight tomorrow night to get that fast track workshop. Well, this is even less expensive than what people paid to get the live workshop. Now they had the benefit, if you're watching this, just keep in mind, you had the benefit of asking questions in the live workshop, whereas they won't necessarily get that opportunity. So let's just see here. If you go to, I'm going to change something up here real quick, put this on the screen. So if you go to maximizingecommerce.com/fast, again, maximizingecommerce.com/fast, you can get that fast track workshop. Even if you didn't win, I hope this has been beneficial for you and a good use of your time, and you learned a lot. And I can pretty much promise you that fast track workshop is going to be worth your while. So if you're already selling in the US and you're not selling in Canada, this is going to be one of the simplest ways to make just even the headache of figuring this out is worth $47. And like I said, little hack is, and I don't say this on the sales page, but I will tell you this, when you get to the next page, it's a one-time offer of 50% off. You can buy an hour of my time. And that's not a fake 50% off thing. It's like, people email me, hey, how do I buy an hour of your time? And I give them a rate. That's half of it. And it's pretty affordable for what you could get there. So, so it looks like, oh, Yara said, don't see it. What has happened? Who won? Oh, Yaro, you won. So you were number 5. So for whatever reason, it didn't show up when I was sharing my screen. You won. So Yaro, you were number 5. So Will was 1. Catherine was 2. Hassam was 3. Chris was 4. Yaro was 5. Peter was 6. And I put in 6 into the random number generator, and it came back as number 5. So Yaro, you won. So you can message me. And for those of you who did not win, you still won because you are here, and hopefully you learned good things. And if you are looking to expand, now you can get a great deal on that. The recordings of the Fast Track Workshop by going to maximizingecommerce.com/fast. And I would make sure to take advantage of that pretty fast because this deal will be going away tomorrow at midnight. And again, this is because I want to take care of the people who are already existing in my community and list, because I'm going to be offering it to new folks as they come in. So I want to give everybody their opportunity. So this is your opportunity to get that at a fantastic price, $47. And again, if all this does is get you off the couch, so to speak, maybe it's not the right term, but if it gets you moving towards Canada, then it literally will pay for itself for almost everyone. Now, I can't guarantee any results, but I will guarantee you this. If, regardless of whether or not you take advantage of this offer, if you don't start taking action on going into places like Canada, you will be guaranteed 0 results. So if you want some results and you want to figure out what do those look like, you got to start taking the leap of faith to start investing some time and effort to get set up. And we'll walk you through all that, especially this part, which I know for a lot of people is the most intimidating part. And again, I've done it for, I can't even think of how many clients at this point, as well as I've done it for myself and my own business. I've been selling in Canada for 5 years, and people that sell on Amazon in Canada generally don't say, I wish I had waited. They usually say, I wish I'd done this sooner, because they realize once you're up and running, it pretty much runs itself. PPC, I check a handful of times a year. In fact, you know, like you can only go back in a lot of reports like 60 days. And so usually I'm looking at periods wider than that. And so I don't really even have all the data to optimize my PPC, just throwing that out there. Because there's less competition. It's a relatively simple marketplace. If you ever do have to get on the phone and talk to the government there, they're so nice and friendly. I mean, all the stereotypes you have about Canadians being nice and friendly are true. So again, between now at midnight and it's April 20th, 2021 at 2:00 p.m. Eastern time. So this is all in Eastern time. So midnight Eastern time tomorrow night. That's a Wednesday night. We will be taking this deal away. So if you went to maximizingecommerce.com/fast after that, most likely you would see $197 in case, unless I decided to raise the price or something like that. So, but in the meantime, as I'm recording this, just $47. So that is slam dunk a great deal. And again, for a lot of folks watching this, if you're already selling on Amazon in the US, if this just gets you up and running just a little sooner, then you would be, what's the word I'm looking for? If this gets you up and running just a little bit sooner, then you would literally be paying for this just in the fact you'd be up and running sooner. And it's going to solve a lot of the issues of trying to figure it all out on your own. So if that's something that you're interested in, go to maximizingecommerce.com/fast. And either way, I thank you for being as part of this live. Will says he has to get back to work. Will, thank you for joining us. Everyone else, also thank you for joining. And hopefully this has been worth your while. Yaro, congratulations again. Just shoot me an email or a direct message, and I'll get you all set up with access to that. And for everyone else, again, maximizingecommerce.com/fast. I wish you all the best. Take care.